Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Equine Episode Examination on our special Monday edition here, as we work around some schedules. So thanks for joining us today on Monday instead of tomorrow. Today we will be talking about Where the Apple Lies, this past weekend's new best episode ever. No bias there. So we'll be talking about that this week. If this is your first time joining us for Equine Episode Examination, pretty much we're just gonna discuss and kind of examine last weekend's episode, or this past weekend's episode, and we just kind of have a simple structure here. Where we'll start with a more general discussion, then kind of pinpoint on more specifics of the episode. And kind of give our initial opinions on it, what we liked, what we didn't like, and just have an overall discussion that totally will not sidetrack to any other discussion, because we never do that here. And try and get that all done before we go on to the rest of our stuff tonight. So if you're watching this on a recording, we record this usually on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on CinemaQuestria.com. So if you ever want to come by, stop by and join in the chat and join in the discussion. First off, you're quickly running out of opportunities if you want to do this during the actual Season 6 discussions here, because we only have a couple episodes left, and then our recap discussion, and then, of course, the Equestria Girls movie after that, and then we'll get to some other past stuff as well. But if you want to stop on by and join in the chat, everyone here is encouraged to participate in the discussion. So I'm here standing up because it hurts when I sit down right now. So this is kind of awkward standing at my desk, but it works. So I'm Rain Shadow, by the way, and I'm joined by a few people here in the call if they want to introduce themselves. Or not. Can they all hear me? Can you all hear me in the call? I'm thinking that's a no. I don't think they can hear me in the call. Let me see. Let's see what the issue is here. No, that's fine. Let me drop out of the call and reconnect. You can all hear me on the stream though, right? Hopefully y'all can hear me at least on the stream, because that seems to be working. Give me a big shout out, yes, if you can hear me on the stream in the chat. Let me know. Meanwhile, I'm going to try and reconnect to this call here. And there's going to be a little delay since... Okay, so they can hear me in the stream. I guess I'm going to have to restart Discord here. Yeah, thanks, Discord. It looks like we're not...
I can't hear anybody.
It looks like Discord is letting me know that... Hey, we can't hear anything from your mic, even though my mic is on and it's selected. So we're going to restart Discord here. Off to a brilliant start here for today. At least you all can hear me, so they don't need to, they all don't need to, they don't all need to do that. Huh. Can they still not hear me? That's interesting. Okay. That works. Why is this not working? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. Can you hear me? Yay! Nothing a simple restart can't fix. I guess I had to restart my sound driver that goes to Discord. So there we go. Nothing cannot be fixed by simply just not turning it on and off and on again. That's literally all I did. Okay. Well, with that, everyone in call missed as I just gave the introduction, and I was about to introduce everyone, and then no one responded. So I'm Rain Shadow, and I'm joined by some other people here in the call if they want to go ahead and introduce themselves. I can I can hear some breathing, so I know you all can hear me. Okay.
It's one very big village.
Okay, so everything should be good now. Yeah, you should be able to hear them now. I guess I had to restart one other thing there. So, let's go ahead and let's get started before we waste any more time here today, and discuss where. Gosh, there we go. Get to the right window here. Discuss where the apple lies. So, what's everyone's initial thoughts on the episode?
Big Mac, please shut up.
The thing you never ever thought you would say. I personally, I mean, and all truthfulness, I kind of joke around with it being an Applejack episode, but I really did love this episode just for what it is in terms of actually, well, pretty much the entire thing being a flashback, having it give a lot of backstory, but more importantly, giving backstory into why one of the characters' elements is what they are, like, why Applejack is so honest all the time. And it was just kind of just reading that in the episode summary before it aired, when that was released, really piqued my interest, because it just seems like, hopefully they executed well, because it's such a good kind of concept to explore as okay, so yeah, we know Applejack is this element. We know the characters are whatever element they are, but why is that their element? And it's great to see them explore that for one of the characters and actually find out, why Applejack is so honest all the time, and also explore, Big Mac as well, and that, which was kind of cool. It was nice that they didn't just focus on her backstory.
Brutal honesty from me. I enjoyed the episode, don't get me wrong. It was quite a simple episode, a lot more simpler than I was expecting it to be, because it was a pretty... the story-wise, it was pretty... I wouldn't say simplistic, but pretty straightforward. What I will say is it's not necessarily the main story that was most interesting to me. It was a lot of background details, like seeing the younger Big Mac, turn his head to, Ogalot to Cheerilee, and I think everyone's going to mention Derpy with the the bandages round her eyes. I think it's the little things that really make this episode for me. It's interesting that in terms of the main story, I'm not surprised that Applejack was a bit of a liar when she was younger. I think that it's something that she probably had to learn to realise that, that obviously, in general, lies are a bad thing. But I do think that it should be counterweighted by always telling the truth can also get you into trouble too. Because whilst I feel that obviously the balance should be that you should like 99.99% of the time tell the truth, there are always going to be that odd occasion when telling like a white lie or a lie that's that's more not going to upset a person can sometimes be beneficial. I know it's not always right, but sometimes I do feel that is a lesson I think Applejack may occasionally be.
Maybe, but I think it's. I hope I'm not cutting Matt off there. He stopped, but I think it might have been his connection. I think that's kind of a point they explored a little bit in the season 4 episode with the Flim Flam brothers, the Applejack's Key episode. In terms of, because that whole episode revolved around Applejack.
Necessarily in the past, or even if she tries, but yeah, I mean.
I don't know. We kind of lost you there for a second, Matt. So I don't know if you heard what I said, but I was saying they kind of explored that a little bit in the season 4 episode with the Flim Flam brothers, where the Applejack's Key episode from there, where Applejack was faced with telling the truth, actually hurting Granny Smith in that episode.
Yeah, I guess so. I dropped, didn't I?
Yeah, you dropped for. I couldn't tell if you had stopped speaking or if you dropped because it kind of dropped at the right time.
No. Internet dropped. This is gonna be fun.
As usual.
You sound okay though. That's a start.
Well, I kept rebooting my internet until basically I kept kicking it until it started actually working properly.
So let's go ahead. Let's jump in the story and the writing. This episode was written by Dave Rapp, who's written new writer for this season. Who's written 2 episodes so far. Kind of interesting episodes. He's written as well. Very big, either in terms of continuity or in terms of backstory for characters that he's been given. He wrote the previous Rainbow Dash episode. The name is escaping me, from earlier in the season, the Wonderbolt episode. He wrote that one, and he also wrote a little bit more recently, the Flutterbrudder episode. And in this episode, of course, Megan McCarthy also got a story credit for it, and she also got a story credit back in the Flutterbrudder episode. So both these episodes are kind of dealing with characters' backstory, or giving them either additional backstory or different, additional characters. With the Flutterbrudder episode, it was with Fluttershy's brother, obviously, and here it's with Applejack's honest nature. So kind of giving Dave Rapp some of these really big in terms of backstory episodes, and with a little bit of help from Megan, which is nice in terms of just keeping whatever their ideas have been for the past 6 years in terms of the future and the characters' backstories, and kind of keeping that all in line. Yeah, Newbie Dash, thank you.
It's something I have noticed. I know we're only 2. We're still 2 more episodes out. We've got Top Bolt and obviously To Where and Back Again to come. Something I have noticed, is it just me, or is there a slightly smaller pool of writers for this season versus other seasons? I know we've still got 2 more episodes to go, so we may well have new writers then, but it just seems that we've had what's interesting is it's mostly been newer writers, but also it's been a slightly smaller pool of writers as well.
I'd have to go back and actually check. Yeah.
It's something we can look into, perhaps when we talk about the end of the season, probably. But it's just something that I've just sort of noticed. Just something.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not like a smaller number, it's definitely it's a ton of new writers.
With Dave Rapp, he's definitely been pushed into the deep end. It's like, I hope I hope you've been reading up about your MLP, because you'll be getting these pretty sort of heavily continuity backstory episodes or whatever. So they didn't give him an easy ride. Let's just say that.
I mean, even like all the other writers too. It's just like they've really been kind of coming into season 6 of the show, and a lot of them have had really story heavy, continuity heavy episodes. So it's definitely interesting to see with all these new writers. But I definitely liked how they've all done, and hopefully the fresh takes that they've brought to the show. But it seems like most of the writers, I'm not sure about the exact numbers, but most of the writers, at least in terms of the new writers, I think each wrote like 2 or 3 episodes each. Most of them wrote 3.
There's one exception, Jennifer Skelly, who wrote.
She is the one.
Buckball one. She's only written Buckball, I believe,
unless she writes unless she's writing Top Bolt.
That was. I know who's writing that episode, but I'll say now it's not Jennifer. The only one she wrote this season was Buckball season.
Okay.
No, Josh Haber wrote the finale, so she's not going to be.
Yeah. That was kind of a given, considering he's the story editor. So that was not a surprise.
And from what I understand, Megan McCarthy, Joanna Lewis, and Christine Songo will be behind the next Saturday's episode. I should say.
Well, there you go, Matt. He's
upcoming
gonna
one.
spoil it anyway.
Or-
so.
or the episode that aired today in the UK, of the day that this is airing anyway. I've still not seen the episode. I've got them sitting on my PlayStation 3. I could watch them right now, but I won't. I'm going to resist.
I haven't seen any of them either. I have seen some screenshots of the final episode, but I'm not going to go into that. So,
Thanks, Internet.
So, what else about the story and the writing of this episode?
I have to be interested in the sense that this episode kind of seems to debunk the theory that the main six are teenagers in the present day, simply because of the appearance of teenage Applejack with her skinnier legs and her pigtails and all that, especially considering that her parents are absent, which could imply that they're already out of the picture. So therefore, since if Apple Bloom is assumingly not born, or at least she's like a baby, a toddler during this episode, if we think back to like previous episode, For Whom the Sweetie Belle Toils, Sweetie Belle is like 5 years old by that particular episode. This already implies that the Cutie Mark Crusaders are older than 5, which would logically make the main six at most in their mid to late 20s in the present day.
I would think Sweetie Belle's
the
older than
one
5
thing-
and Sweetie Belle toils.
The one thing I will say, I definitely think there's a wider age gap between Applejack and Apple Bloom in Equestria than in Equestria Girls.
Well, yeah, I mean
believe there is a
they
larger
take
age
some
gap.
they take some liberties there in terms of what qualifies as a high schooler, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Unless it's one of those schools that has the middle schoolers
It
with
might.
the high schoolers,
Yeah,
that's a
you know,
possibility. Or
I
they could
think-
have the British system where we have a primary and a secondary school.
Yeah,
And
I
we
mean,
don't
I think
have a
that, like I
middle
said, they
school, we
just take
have
some
two
liberties there
schools.
to have them in the movies.
I'm going to say, and this is again, this could also probably be taking liberties as well, but this also again leads to a couple of alternate possibilities in regards to this, because again, with the Apple Bloom and all them, even though they're technically still foals, do note that it was assumed that Apple Bloom and Time and Tiara are approximately the same age due to being classmates in school, but if you'll notice, aside from the Apple parents, Applejack and Apple Bloom's mom and dad, we didn't see Apple Bloom in the flashback, neither did we see Diamond Tiara. And it was specifically stated that Filthy Rich introduced Spoiled Rich, then known as Spoiled Milk, as his apparently new fiancée rather than his wife. And the continued absence of Applejack's parents is actually made really noticeable on this, because this flashback potentially is either before either of them existed, but this potentially has possible implications on 3 possible implications. If Apple Bloom hadn't been born by this particular situation with the flashback, then the Apple parents are still alive during this episode, and we just simply don't see them. They're just out of the picture for whatever reason. If Diamond Tiara had been born by this time of the flashback, then it could be suggested that Filthy Rich and his fiancée had premarital coitus. Or
Shotgun wedding.
Alternatively, like Tim mentioned in the chat room, Apple Bloom is either significantly older than Diamond Tiara, or she's adopted.
Well, an interesting thing to mention is I'm not entirely sure if we could if we could count. I mean, there's obviously a lot of possibilities in terms of Applejack's parents, but this episode seems to imply that at the point of the flashback, Granny Smith is in charge of the farm, and Applejack and Big Mac are kind of fighting sort of over who is going to get the farm next, which seems to imply that the parents are already out of the picture. and you know, it's going down to them. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can read into that you could say that the parents are still alive too, but at least from my viewpoint, it makes it almost seem that, you know, if they're discussing, you know, which one's going to run the farm next, then, I mean, obviously if their parents were still alive, it would be their parents, you know, for a while, and at least until their Granny Smith's age. I mean, there's obviously all sorts of things crazy, you know, you're getting into fan fiction, headcanon territory there about, you know, if they're still alive, what they're doing that could cause maybe them not to want to run the farm or not run the farm or doing something else, and that doesn't involve being dead.
I do remember back when in the series Bible, I should say, that it was mentioned that Big Macintosh was supposed to have been the head of the farm. At least that was in the series Bible when oh bloody hell, what was her name?
Lauren Faust?
Lauren Faust, yes. How could I have forgotten that?
Wow, of all the names you could forget.
Of all the names I could forget, yes, the one woman. Yes, back when Lauren Faust was still doing the series, back all the way in the days of season 1, when Big Macintosh was known as, or supposed to be known as, Big Apple, that was the idea, was that he was supposed to have been the head of the farm and was supposed to be running it. And it's kind of interesting to note that as far as who actually runs the farm, of course it's you know, pretty clear that Granny Smith still runs the show, but it's kind of like the same way as like what we saw in the Flim Flam episode earlier this season, where, you know, Applejack is more of the brains and Big Macintosh is the brawn, where Big Macintosh does more of the heavy lifting. He's the one who does the majority of the actual physical labor in the actual farm, and Applejack is the one who does more of the sales than anything else.
One thing that I did want to mention in terms of Diamond Tiara, it could be very possible that they had Diamond Tiara as a child before they were married, and maybe Spoiled Milk kind of used that as a way to force Filthy Rich to marry her. I mean, with how she acts, I mean, I wouldn't put that past her.
Considering her characterization,
she's obviously sort of like a gold digger, you know. I mean, even her cutie mark is just a diamond ring. So she's obviously, to me, from her attitude and everything, it seems like she's marrying into money here.
I do have to admit, though, this is actually really interesting in the sense that this is probably the first instance we've ever seen of a maiden name, because
it's true.
You know, and I don't know if this is like, you know, just a minor thing. If Spoiled Milk just changed her name to Spoiled Rich simply so she could call herself Spoiled Rich, or because we've never seen any other instance of surnames in the entire series up to this point.
What about the Pie family?
Oh well, that's a good point.
Wait, did we see it for the Pie family?
Well, we have Pinkie Pie, Marble Pie, Limestone Pie.
Yeah, but I guess from my thoughts is we haven't heard like if her mother's name had a different name than Pie.
Oh, you mean like the same sort of naming conventions that we have in the human world?
Yeah.
Because
obviously with Spoiled Milk that happened.
Just think, it would have been Diamond Milk had her mother not married to Spoiled Rich. To Filthy Rich even. A Diamond Milk doesn't sound like a very
sounds like a brand of milk
concoction.
Maybe Spoiled could have just given her daughter a different given name. She probably could have just called her 2%.
Semi-skims.
Oh man, I'm gonna call Diamond. I'm gonna call Diamond Tiara that from now on. Man, if the CMC were not like on friendlier terms with her now, and they found out about that, that would be like the perfect insult to swing her way. Hey, 2%. Or hey, Skim. Skim would be a great name. It sounds a little more masculine though, but.
So does that mean her full name is Spoiled Milk Rich then?
No, she doesn't have she doesn't have a double-barreled surname. It would probably be better if it was Spoiled Rich Milk as well. That would work more.
Getting a little back on track. I did like. I mean, I think it's really interesting and cool how pretty much this entire episode is a flashback, and that's not something we really get a lot. We have episodes like the Cutie Mark Chronicles episodes, which deals with a lot of flashbacks over the episode, or the Zap Apple episode where we have that prolonged flashback in the final act from Granny Smith, but this pretty much this entire episode is a flashback. We get the cold open, which quickly and nicely introduces kind of the issue and the problem for it, and just gets that out of the way right away without wasting any time. And then we just ran out for the opening. We get right to this flashback, and we don't come out of it until the very end of the episode. And the entire thing is just this story from the flashback, which is something I think is fairly new for the series. I mean, it's not something we really had, something that takes place completely in the past, completely backstory. So it was kind of interesting, and to be able to do that made the episode even more interesting in that respect. And not just that, because then we get to see all the, not just Applejack, but then all these other characters that they have. Like, we see Cheerilee and stuff in the back, and various other ones that allows us to do that. You mean the Shining reference with the two girls in the hospital? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, The Shining, yeah. Come play with this Applejack.
Oh, yeah, the story took place over pretty much an entire day as Applejack just lies her way deeper and deeper into a hole.
I also do like how the episode also deflected some of the criticism of Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 by explaining that the sweet apple cider has apparently a very short shelf life, and it has to be sold and consumed as soon as it's made on the first come first served basis.
Yeah, they added some nice backstory to why they do that, like on the farm and have everyone line up. It's more than just it's tradition,
Which, by the way, also means almost very likely it could be. Actually, no, it could be. No, never mind. I'm thinking of something else. It could be both types, because this is an episode that was too hot for British TV.
Yes, I wonder why they skipped this episode in the UK now.
Because the apple cider is generally alcoholic in the UK, and as far as I know, alcoholic references on children's television is a no-no.
Indeed, because I think
which is ridiculous. But that's not. I think it's mostly like preschooler television, because just a reminder, Tiny Pop, which is where these episodes that have been coming out earlier in the UK has been airing, is predominantly preschooler channel, so basically for 6 years and under, maybe even 5 years and under. The funny thing is pop, which does have a higher, which obviously has a demographic that's obviously older than that, has actually aired Super Side Squeezy 6000 unedited on British television, but I believe it's only been shown here once.
I still think they need to just replace all cider, the words with cider, with just buy some apples. Throughout the episode. There we go. Perfect.
The problem is the way they do edit like any cider references that are sort of minor ones in other episodes is like really jarring and obvious. It's almost as bad as when they edited out some of the scenes from Steven Universe, which actually made it look more sexual than the actual scene itself. Good job there, UK Cartoon Network.
Yeah, because when you edit stuff out, you start implying stuff that might not be there, and then it gets worse.
Yep, that's exactly what
so
happened
great.
when they basically had a close-up of Greg's face looking, yeah. It was funny. Seriously, I actually think it made the scene like 10 times funnier.
Thanks, UK.
Our rules are stupid. They really are.
I mean, some ciders, like I no joke, I love apple cider, and I do get it at the store, and the stuff at the store lasts a little bit longer, but yeah, it does have preservatives in it, so you can, obviously that makes it last a lot longer. But Apple Family cider is obviously 100% natural.
To say, yeah, I'm not really an apple cider drinker, either alcoholic or otherwise, so I wouldn't know.
I love alcoholic cider. I prefer it over. I would rather drink alcoholic cider than beer. If I had the choice of cider or beer, I
tastes
would
like
choose
piss.
cider almost every time.
I don't like beer.
Sorry?
I don't like beer. It
It
tastes
depends. It depends on the beer. If it's like Carling Lager, then that tastes like piss. Yeah, I hate that. But if it's like, I can drink Budweiser, but only if it's been refrigerated. I can't drink it any other way, and it has to be out of a bottle. I can't drink it out of a can. It's the only way I can drink that. But a lot of like the craft lagers that we do at where I work are like really, really nice, especially like some of the local ones. So there's that. But
Say, yeah, I feel the same way. I don't like beer. I don't even like the smell of it. In fact, the only real alcohol I've ever really drank that I've enjoyed was a few wines, and then like the Long Island iced tea that I enjoy so much.
I've never tried wine. I've had like a couple of champagnes, but mostly at like weddings, and that was sort of something that I downed and didn't really think about because I didn't know whether I was going to like it or not.
Say, yeah, there was. I remember I first had like a red wine. And that was all right. It was like mainly for something that we did for New Year's. Then I remember I had a bottle of Monsanto once, and that was pretty nice.
All I know is that the Apple Family cider must be really, really, really good because, well, we all know from how much Rainbow Dash desperately tries to get some every year. So, and even she can't get to the front of the queue, and we know how fast a pony she can be. It's just a problem that you sleep in the morning, the way that she sleeps in every morning.
Pivoting back from wine and spirits examination here.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, but I like talking about booze.
We'll have to have a booze talk show sometime then.
Drunk CQ refs.
Isn't that every week?
Not necessarily. I don't have the alcohol provided. Even then, I've never actually been drunk.
It should be.
We should just have a Patreon just to basically fund the booze we need.
I was gonna say, I really liked how the story in this episode progressed in terms of Applejack digging herself deeper and deeper into these lies as they go on. Starting from kind of a simple, her making a mistake, and then just this little simple lie to try and correct it, and then just more and more. And I just love how it just comically keeps adding on and adding on. And I don't know. I guess it felt it didn't feel forced. It just felt really natural in terms of all of these ridiculous lies progressing, and then how each of those lies came to this negative outcome where it's like, oh, she's in the hospital. Well, okay, then Filthy Rich is gonna want to go visit her in the hospital then, and see how she's doing. And so they have to keep upping all these lies all the way up to the climax when they have Big Mac there on the operating table in the end of the episode there that finally forces Applejack to come out and admit what happened. I really liked how that played out. And I think it's interesting how it kind of played out differently than how the description kind of made it sound. It made it sound like the summary for the episode pretty much most of them ended with Applejack's lies ending up with the entire Apple family in the hospital, which obviously makes it sound like they got hurt. But here they literally are in the hospital, but that's it. They're in the hospital.
I just like the idea of after every lie that Applejack said, whenever Big Mac basically pointed it out to her, I just like to think that Applejack was actually saying, don't worry, I've got this.
I've got this. Best new meme 2016. That and the Pinkie Pie's mind.
Oh God,
that's a good one. Even the episode description lied to us. I love the beginning too, and when Applejack when Apple Bloom tells that lie, and she pretty much calls out Applejack, saying, pretty much like how a lot of fans do, but you never lie. and then Big Mac and Granny Smith just kind of have a great laugh.
True. I'm sure if I picked through every single episode of the show, I could point out points when Applejack has actually lied.
Oh yeah, I mean Applejack.
It's like saying that Fluttershy. It's like saying Fluttershy is always nice in every episode, and we all know that's not strictly true.
Yeah, I mean she's subtly a bitch most of the time.
Not. Well, to be fair, I blame that on Angel. It just rubs off on her.
But yeah, I mean it's more just because she's the element of honesty, or I think a lot of people really overdo the elements. Like she's the element of honesty, or Rarity's the element of generosity. So she has to be generous or honest 100% of the time, or else she's out of character. I don't really think that's what the elements kind of represent. In terms of forcing them to be honest. Yeah.
That's why I feel like the Tree of Harmony and the stuff like that made to downplay the elements was done specifically for that purpose, to basically make the characters more than this one note, part of the elements kind of deal. Mm. I think that was sort of a shackle that was sort of removed from them, and I think it's a big benefit to do that.
Yeah.
Not only that, but even though Applejack even vowed to never tell a lie again, she's also still somewhat prone to mistruths, as last week's episodes showed. So even though she's still mostly above, as opposed to completely above dishonesty.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's one of the reasons why I love Magical Mystery Cure so much. In that line at the end, where they don't call it honesty, they call it integrity. Which again is just so much better. Like all those are just so much better than the actual terms, and that one's also really that integrity that she has, rather than just blatant honesty.
Not without basically having to put wings on every character. He wants to rewrite the elements as well. Damn you, Larson!
And when he couldn't, he went out and wrote and made his own book. I want to write my own book with
blackjack and hookers.
With witches and hookers.
Just forget the hookers.
Forget the
and the blackjack.
I don't want to forget the hookers, but the publisher forced me to. And it definitely, I think it definitely helped. Again, it's nice. Well, first off, it's nice to see that Megan McCarthy still has some sort of presence this season, even though she's obviously focused on other things at Hasbro and the movie. But it's nice that, you know, between this and like the Flutterbutter episode and a few of the others, I believe too, seeing that she's still having input in terms of the overall story and the overall continuity of series-wise continuity, especially in an episode like this one. We're dealing with a lot of flashbacks that, you know, obviously go back and deal very specifically with one of the character's core features. So it's nice to see that she has a story credit, which means obviously she's providing a lot of input into the episode as to this is what Applejack, you know, kind of should have happened. You know, this is kind of how she got her element and all these other things in terms of continuity wise there. In addition to just having, you know, like Josh Haber being the story editor.
So, of course, being their boss, she could just tell them, say, here's an idea. Now put me in the credit, otherwise you're fired.
Bam.
Well, Megan McCarthy is Elzar now. Bam.
Yeah, Tim, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, the actual element names are a lot more buzzworthy, marketable, whatever, than some of the more complex words. I mean, they're very simple concepts, I guess you could say, that, you know, kids could understand. Generosity, honesty, magic, friendship, you know, kindness, rather than the words they use and concepts they use in Magical Mystery Cure are a lot more complex. You know, integrity, optimism. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. And integrity, optimism. Forget rarities. But whatever. But all of them, the same thing applies. They're all very a lot
I
more.
can look it up real fast.
You don't have to look it up. I mean, we don't have to waste time on that. I'm just saying they are a lot more complex things that, you know, might go over the heads of some of the younger viewers. The hooker should have wings. Yes. Yes.
What have I started?
Charity.
Yeah, charity, yeah.
I'll just post the whole thing in here. Give me 1 second.
But let's see. Oh, what else about the anything else with the story and the writing? What other anything else that people want to point out for that?
One little thing, it's not so much the writing, but it is nice to see a little bit more of Applejack help. Not Applejack, Apple Bloom.
It is nice to see more Applejack
with farm stuff. We've seen. Of course it is, Rain. Of course it is. You would say that if it was just like I said to you before, if it was just her sitting down eating an apple for a whole 22 minutes, you would say 10 out of 10 best episode.
I would watch an hour of Applejack nomming on her hat. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, but we would all do that.
Make it happen, Haber. Make it happen. Season 7, come on. Oh yeah, by the way, season 7, everyone's confirmed. I forgot that.
You do realize that's going to be the movie.
I hope. Yeah, I forgot to mention that at the top. Yeah, season 7 is confirmed if you all been living under a rock or whatever. And what, 3 Equestria Girls specials for next year, which apparently are at least season 7 in terms is going to be happening in the same time frame in the spring. So I'm pretty excited. It was also, I will say, it is also nice, without getting too much into character here, to see, again, an episode, being that we're dealing, obviously, with a flashback here, and dealing with Applejack, why she is so honest all the time here. It is nice, again, having an episode that's kind of dealing with Applejack having some sort of fault or something, and overcoming that, or dealing with said fault in it. Yeah, without getting too much into his character discussion, I definitely liked how they weaved Filthy Rich into the episode and made him such an important part. And it makes sense in terms of the series continuity because we've already seen numerous times how he and the Apple family have close business ties through multiple episodes before. So this totally makes this episode the present and the past of this episode both totally makes sense, and they utilize that in a very good way as the basis to tell this story and the basis for having Applejack get into this downward spiral of lies.
The farm is just a front. Really and truthfully, Filthy Rich just funds the Apple Mafia.
It's all falling into place. Anything else for the story and writing, or is everyone ready to move on to character discussion?
I'm good.
I'm ready to move on.
Okay, so characters and characterization for the episode. I kind of want to start with Filthy Rich first, just because of some comments that were made earlier in the chat, and just kind of talk about his. I don't want to go into this too much because we're gonna have this discussion later, but it is interesting to note his differences between here and in the Equestria Girl, the most recent Equestria Girls movie, where he has a presence in there. He's a lot more of a dick, to put it lightly, in that movie. Where I mean, here he's shown more to be how he's always been in the series. Yeah, I mean he's really really rich guy, but he isn't like a total asshole or anything like that. He's just a business guy. That's what he does. I think really the reason is just that it's that real world difference compared to this fantastical world of Equestria, where it's like here in Equestria, you can have these, you have this like this business guy. So it's he's obviously a businessman, but he's not really much of a jerk. But you put him in the real world here, and suddenly money becomes a lot more important to him, and you can almost kind of maybe look at it as like a little insight and maybe into society in terms of that.
It is kind of interesting that how Spoiled Rich did kind of threaten to cut off all business ties with Sweet Apple Acres after Applejack decided to come clean and say, hey, we really can't give you the 3 barrels I originally promised you. It is a little extreme on his end.
Well, I mean, I don't really think it's that extreme. I mean, he obviously had gone through a lot of work because he was obviously really excited about that, and he had gotten a lot of work and spent a lot of money and a lot of time on taking Applejack's word. And then she comes back and had pretty much straight up lied to him and saying, actually, no, we can't do that. I think he's rightfully going to be a little frustrated with that and saying, well, if this is how you're going to conduct business, and if this is how the Apple family is going to conduct business and promise me something, get me to spend a lot of money and time preparing to sell your product and then pull it out at the last second and saying, oh, sorry, JK. I mean, I think that's a very valid reason to say maybe I shouldn't be doing business with you in the future.
He'll be fine, Rain. He's called Filthy Rich. He'll always have plenty of money. I mean, unless he changes his name to Poor Homeless Bum or something.
I mean, yeah, he's rich, but I mean, he's only rich because he's that business pony. So he has to be making good business decisions. I mean, that's the whole reason why he would be in that place in the first place. Can I just say though, I love Granny Smith in this episode, and she's pretty much like a mob leader in this. And at the end of the flashback,
The Apple family mafia is real.
and so at the end of the flashback there, when when they're in the medical room there, she pretty much just like yells at Filthy Rich and gets him to squirm in his chair, saying how he better not back out or stuff like that. I mean, you can just see how much clout she holds, especially in the beginning of the episode when he's returning the stuff. It's like, oh, please tell me that she didn't think I took them. He was like legitimately scared.
But to say, yeah, even at the beginning, like you mentioned, I mean, Granny Smith's weight and behind her words is so strong that even years later, that Filthy Rich is just obviously, visually terrified that this mix-up is going to, cross her, even though he had no role whatsoever in the mix-up. And it is just, I don't know, I just find that funny, like you said.
That's funny. Now I'm getting the mental image of, you mentioned her being a crime boss. Now I've got the mental image of Granny Smith running an underground alcoholic cider ring.
Well, also because she was there for the founding of the town. Obviously, the Apple family played a major role in the founding of Ponyville, and she was there from the beginning, as we know from her flashback. So I definitely think that holds a lot of the reason behind why she holds so much clout.
Granny Smith is the kingpin.
Oh yeah, I forgot. She went over him and threatened to tell his father, which is great. Because obviously his father is the one that the Apple family really got that kind of business relationship going between the two of them, and with them and the Zap Apple jam.
Am I the only one that wants Filthy Rich to meet Impossibly Rich?
You're only saying that because Fluttershy.
Maybe.
I do really like how he's portrayed in this universe, and then how they kind of balance that out now, starting last season with Spoiled Rich, or here Spoiled Milk, and this episode provides a nice context and backstory to their relationship as well, and how here we see them as fiancé instead of married here, but she's still that very trying to be controlling of him, and obviously being quite a bitch about it too. But I mean, you can just tell, like, with what she's saying too, and how she's saying it, in terms of he's trying to be maybe a little more logical or lenient, or meet in the middle and stuff, and then she's just like no, and she's just going to the extreme, the very extreme end of things. So how about Big Mac in this episode? He surprisingly got a lot more of a character backstory than I was expecting, with us actually kind of finding out, in addition to Applejack and why she is so honest, we find out why Big Mac doesn't talk so much.
Peter New must have had a lot of fun with this episode, I'm not gonna lie. and kind of like, what Matt said earlier, it's very I never would have thought mentally telling Big Mac to shut up in my head would have been something I would have ever thought.
Yeah, and it's a nice kind of opposite of it too, where now he's obviously doesn't say much unless he has something to say, and he listens a lot and just kind of responds with a yes, no. Back then he just wouldn't shut up, and that actually led to more problems in this episode, more problems for him, and seeing why he kind of changed his ways over time then. And listen more, because and at the end of the episode he's like, I really should have stepped back and listened to you more rather than just blabbing over, just talking to Applejack, and rather than just blabbing over you all the time.
Not only that, but he seemed to be a bit of a jerk to Applejack as well, kind of like a bit of a big brother bully, kind of being the one of ideas are all well and good, but you can't plow a field with him, and that he was always the one bragging about how he had the strength to make any idea basically a reality, and that how he was the useful one around the farm because he did all the heavy lifting, essentially.
Yeah, and then that's and you definitely has a lot to do with seeing them in this state of the beginning of this episode, of them kind of fighting over who's going to kind of be in charge of the farm next, between the two of them. There, kind of like the inheritance kind of fight between siblings. So there's obviously some animosity between them riding off of that. I like how they use that as an excuse throughout the episode too, when they're trying to keep Filthy Rich busy. And he's like, I just asked him how Granny Smith's going, and he started going on about why he calls himself big. Like, yeah, he's been known to talk when he's nervous or sad. So, of course, it's kind of funny too when you hear Applejack say, "Yeah, well, you know how Big Mac is, never being able to stop talking."
Instead of Big Mac, it was more like Big Mouth, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
How about that little glance that he gives at Shirley in that flashback too?
And there was even a couple of Twitter posts, I think, about that. He was just checking out that 80s Shirley.
Yeah. That was a good ad. I mean, there's so many good things in the background. It was nice seeing that they brought back that 80s kind of Shirley style there. We can definitely kind of see her age relative to Applejack and the main six as well, because she appears to be a little bit older, much closer to Big Mac's age, in that flashback. While Applejack is obviously still a lot smaller, kind of a teenager there. It was nice seeing him kind of step up at the end there, and also take blame for the situation along with Applejack, in terms of him not listening enough and funnily enough talking too much. Speaking of other character flashbacks, we also get a little bit of supposedly maybe some backstory for Derpy as well, which I was not expecting to see. To see that in the episode at all, but then going to the flashback with her at the hospital with just big bandages over her head and her eyes was maybe relating to her condition there. Anything else for Big Mac and his characterization that anyone else has?
Nope.
Yeah, I did see that. I may have just posted that to. I forget. I may have just posted that to Matt. But yeah, I saw that when I was rewatching the episode to get the score time codes for it. I saw a little bit of screw loose in the lobby there. So we can move on to Applejack then and her characterization in the episode. What does everyone have to say about AJ?
Her teenage physical appearance is just remarkably cute with those skinny legs and those pigtails she's got.
Funny enough, her pigtails kind of looks like the inaccurate hairstyle she has in the Game Loft game.
To say, as far as whatchamacallit, her personality goes, it's kind of interesting to know that she's more of like the type of person to jump in without thinking.
Yeah, but then again, that was kind of the point of the episode, to show AJ learning the lesson and having her grow and become smarter, wiser, and honest, just over that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely, Tim. It was nice, you know. It was just nice seeing her. Yes, calling back to last week's episode, kind of being out of her element there. It's just in terms of at that point being so quick to, quick to tell a lie to cover up for her mistakes, like most kids would do at that age. And Granny Smith's line at the at the beginning of the episode, it makes it seem like, this is something that was a lot more common for Applejack at the time. It wasn't just this one instance here where she lied and then changed her ways. Like, before this, it sounded like she was a pretty compulsive liar before this, which makes her character all the more interesting, that, here she is, the element of honesty. And before this situation happened, when she lied her family into the hospital, pretty much, that she was, a lot more of a compulsive liar before, when she was a kid. She definitely still has her very stubborn attitude, though, in this, and we see that especially in her dealings with her brother in this in the episode. I mean, she's really set in stone that, giving the cider early to Filthy Rich, like the Zap Apples, would be a great business decision and a great idea. Up until she learns about the spoilage, which is the whole reason they don't do that, is because of how quick it spoils. Obviously, trying to rush into everything here. Thinking that she has a good idea, but not. In the end, she doesn't really have all the facts related to the matter there.
And indeed, I agree with Tim in chat room. I mean, it's really interesting to see how people kind of are portrayed in the earlier in these episodes and these flashbacks, because it's kind of like a real life situation here, because not everyone is the way that they are or were, in the past. Like we were all a different person, in terms of personality years beforehand. And it's kind of interesting. It's another one of those situations where the episode kind of hits a little closer to home in terms of like reminding older people that, hey, we change over time as it is anyway. So
It makes me really hope that that they do. I'd love to see a similar episode to this for some of the other of the main six, just to see why. I think it could work for a few of them. I mean, why is Rainbow Dash so loyal? Why is Rarity so so generous? I think it's something that can definitely be explored or try to be explored with at least a few of the other characters. I mean, we already know we know Pinkie Pie. We know why she does that. We already got that backstory as part of her flashback in Humor Chronicles. And pretty much the entire series has been Twilight's backstory as to her element, including the first episode. So we know that, but for a few of the other characters, I could definitely see them exploring this in a similar light to them. But I think Applejack definitely had the most to work with in terms of that. I don't really think you could do it for Fluttershy. I mean, kindness is just kind of who she is in terms of, and that deals right back to her shyness and kind of her timidness. So not really much you could work with there. But I think at least with Rainbow Dash and Rarity, you might be able to get a story out of those two's element.
Well, not only that, but we've seen a lot of character development from Fluttershy over the course of the series, as it was anyway. So there's really no real reason to dive into her.
Well, I'm more talking about specifically about why she's so kind. But I think I don't think there's enough to work with an episode there. I think it's kind of implied. We can kind of know why she's so kindness is her element, as opposed to Applejack, where there was a lot more story to go. Why is Applejack so honest? Is she just compulsively honest out of the womb, or or is what caused her to be there? So there's more story there than Fluttershy. I think you could still get that maybe with Rainbow Dash and Rarity, and the other ones either it wouldn't really work out, or we kind of already have known that from a previous episode. Yeah, could be. You can definitely see a lot of parallels to Applejack in this episode and Applejack in Apple Family Reunion as well. Just in terms of she's so concerned about taking over for something, or about showing everyone that she's able to do something right. That she's good at this. Like I got this. I can do this. And showing other people, more specifically like her rest of her family, that she's able to do that. I mean, it's something we've seen in Apple Family Reunion. It's something you can even loosely say we saw all the way back in Applebuck season, in terms of saying, hey, going overboard there and just not being able to stop and saying like, no, it's okay, Big Mac, I can do this. I can run the farm by myself. And we see that starting here all the way back in Phillyhood. And even though her honesty obviously has changed, that's something definitely that is still a constant with her, about wanting to prove herself. And of course, you can also relate that to other things like her rivalry with Rainbow Dash and the Iron Pony competition as well. Yeah, I mean, I just really think that they really got Applejack's characterization. And like I said, when I read the description for this episode, I was so excited because it has the potential to be so interesting and good to go back and explore this part of Applejack's past. But you can also fuck it up pretty easily. But I think they just did a really good job about keeping her in her character. She still has a lot of similarities with her current character. It's not like it's a 180 degree difference with all aspects of her character or anything like that. You can see a lot of similarities to how she is now and how she was back then. The difference being the whole honesty thing, her element, and they played that really well, and everything just seemed to fit really nicely with her characterization. So any other discussion for characters or characterization or any other points that anyone wants to make before we move on? And I'll leave a little pause here so the chat can catch up. since we're running on a little bit more of a delay this week. Take the silence in the chat as a no, unless we're really on a lot of lag here. Let's see. So go on to the voice acting. Anything with the voice acting that anyone want to point out for this week? I will say I think it was great how they obviously all of them kind of pitched their voices up. In this, so obviously Applejack had a little higher voice. Actually, funnily enough, it's closer to her voice in in season 1, when her voice was a lot higher than it is now. Big Mac obviously, obviously has a lot more lines, but his voice is a little bit high pitched. And even Granny Smith, she both in her voice acting and her talking and mannerisms and animation seems, because she's obviously looks still old. She was there for Ponyville's founding, but she still seems a lot younger than she is currently. She's moving around a lot more spryly. She isn't kind of creaking along like she does in a lot of the current episode. In the present day episodes. She still has a little bit more spring in her step there, and in the past, and so her voice acting is a little bit quicker paced, in its speed.
To say it was very nice to see Peter New, or I should say, very nice to hear Peter New, actually speak more in Big Mac's voice than we have ever really gotten in this particular episode. It was also nice to hear Brian Drummond again as Spoiled Rich.
Mm-hmm. And we got Chantel Strand, Diamond Tiara's voice actress, obviously also is the voice actor for her mom, Spoiled Milk, so she has a few lines in here as well. Definitely again another kind of smaller voice actor pool for this episode again. There, even some of the incidentals were just voiced by some of the cast that was already in the episode. Yeah, Peter New really brought. I mean, we've heard him speak in Big Mac, as Big Mac before. And in extended times, but he brought obviously a little more energy and that kind of restlessness in terms of his speaking there, just never stopping. So his voice is a little bit higher, and it sounds a little different too. Of course, we're just used to him saying yep and nope, which was I loved that they when he actually started saying that very late into the episode there. Yeah, I mean, it's just the logical thing to do in terms of if you're going to have, an adult voicing a child in something, if you're going to show their parents, it just makes sense that, the person voicing the child is probably pitching their voice up to make it sound like a child. So it would make sense to maybe use, put a little closer to their normal voice, or just bring that same voice down an octave or so for the parent. And of course, that we saw that already this season as well, when we had Tara Strong and Andrew Francis voice Twilight and Shining Armor's parents in the opener.
Just looking in on here. Tabitha St. Germain. Did she voice Rarity's mother?
That's a good question. It's been a long time since we've heard her mother, so I can't. You'd have to go look it up. I can't remember.
I'm looking it up. I know Tabitha voiced mainly Rarity, Princess Luna, Granny Smith, Mrs. Cake, and various other incidental characters. So it could very well be possible that she did. So. Oh, let's see. Yeah, that she did, indeed.
Of course, with Tabitha, that doesn't really surprise me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it in chat. I just saw it. I just saw it in the chat room just a couple seconds before I saw it on the MLP wiki.
See, anything else for voice acting? See, go on to humor. Humor in the episode. Obviously, the whole kind of premise is kind of humor with the whole thing building up with all these lies on top of lies and just getting out of control. So the whole kind of plot there is very humorous in itself.
Let's see. Yeah, we've had a lot of humor stuff in this here. Like the very fact that Big Macintosh used to be ridiculously talkative, and then of course Spoiled Rich's maiden name before she married was Spoiled Milk. We've had a lot of the minor stuff going on off in the background. Like we saw Derpy with the bandages around her eyes. Apparently, she had a failed eye surgery to correct her derp eyes. Didn't quite take.
Well, I mean, either that or whatever happened is what caused the.
No, because we've seen Derpy with her wall-eyed even in younger flashbacks. If you could recall back to there was a couple of episodes, like we saw the one with the Derby racers when she was making her unusual little craft as a filly. She had her eyes kind of wall-eyed back then. So
I guess let me see.
Let's say we had the if you looked in the background, but not really so much the background, but we've also see the butthurt pony back in the hospital again. The one with the sore ass and the boot cutie mark. Let's say Applejack managing to distract Granny Smith by getting her to tell the story of her first time dealing with apple blight, and by the time that she returned to the barn, Granny's still going on a bit of a tangent. Dropped my second best teeth in the pig pen, and that was the worst case of apple blight I've ever seen. And yeah, I have to agree with Tim, is that a lot of the humor in this episode is very character based. What about that time that Granny Smith nearly sawed off her own grandson's leg, huh? That's kind of dark.
That whole operation scene at the end was just hilarious because they're on so many different pages as to what's happening here, and so Granny Smith's like, no, you got to remove all the limbs. It's the only way. And all the doctors are like, what?
And Big Macintosh under the seat is just sweating bullets and shit and bricks.
It's like, hell nope.
I almost actually have expected him to like speak out and protest on this. I was like, wait a second, hold the phone here. But then that would have stole the spotlight from Applejack right there.
I do like that the nurse's line after that. So she's not a doctor.
Yeah.
That's what she took away from that.
And at the very end, Applebloom concludes that the most important lesson to learn from all of this is that Granny Smith's still the head matriarch. She's still the one running the show, and don't you forget it.
And really, just throughout the episode, just all of the situations that Applejack's in, trying to hide Granny Smith or keep Filthy Rich from seeing Granny Smith, just pushing her into closets and cupboards and stuff, and like both at home and at the hospital. And Granny comes like, that was a closet, and she's like, oh, my bad. Yeah, poor Granny got shoved around a lot in this episode.
Yeah, Applejack just sort of flying into her with that flying tackle, almost like smashing her into the kitchen. Just, ow.
So, anything else for humor that anyone else has? Okay. So the animation and the visuals for it. I mean I personally I really like the look that they gave all of the characters. I mean, there's so many characters here that we see in this flashback, both from Applejack with her lanky kind of legs and more of a teenage phase than we've seen in past, sort of more like how we've seen Fluttershy in her flashback, and to Big Mac with his different slightly different hairstyle that he has in this episode, as well as like seeing Derpy and all these other characters kind of at a stage we haven't really seen them before. Cheerilee again in her kind of teenage 80s attire in it, which I guess she lied when she said that everyone was wearing it back then, because she was certainly the only one in the episode that was like that. So
To say, I find it very interesting that Spoiled Rich had a more of a rounder nose, and before we saw her in her earlier episodes, where she's got the very distinctive, upwardly hooked, upturned nose, and it kind of makes you wonder: did she get a deliberate nose job, or was that just something that was kind of she got while married, and just kind of turning her nose up so much to everything that it just kind of sort of did that sort of definition of like, if you keep making that face, your face is gonna freeze that way.
It's Spoiled Rich. What do you think happened? She most certainly had some work done. especially as she gets older.
I'm going to say though that her specific appearance in this episode actually was far better than the one that we've seen her beforehand, at least pre-nose job.
Well, usually that's the case with the nose jobs.
But yeah, normally with nose jobs, you actually get them to make them look better, not worse.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the times, from what I've seen, a lot of times it doesn't work out so well. Yeah, we actually get to see. We've heard about it a lot in the past, but we actually do get to see Filthy Rich's shop, Barnard Bargains, in this episode, as well as, like Tim said, a lot more of the interior of the hospital.
Yep, a little bit of a expanded world building.
Yeah, Applejack is definitely the queen of scrunchy face. Oh gosh. Anything else from the animation or visuals? Usually I'd have more to say, but I like I said, I didn't get a chance to rewatch the episode since we're doing this a day early, so don't have any notes with me. Yeah, there's quite a bit of injured ponies in the waiting room there. All sorts of different ailments.
I misread that. I thought that said they made sure to have some cats and bandages, and I'm like, wait a minute, why would they want to have cats in a hospital?
Plenty of cats.
Meow.
Okay, well let's move on here. We got about 30 so minutes, a little more than that left. So let's see. Still no song. We haven't had many songs. This one of the things I did notice. I was looking through some stuff, and I guess we'll see as we go forward in the next couple episodes how many more we get. We do have quite a few less songs this season. So far, we've only had 12 songs. Last season we had 21, and I think in season 4 we had 24 songs. And the main reason because of that is in the past couple of seasons here, we've had pretty much 2 musical episodes. We'd have the main actual musical episode like Pinky Pride and Crusaders of the Lost Mark, like we had this season where we had the Heartwarming Tale. But last couple seasons we had an alternative episode, which was pretty much another musical episode, even if it wasn't officially the musical episode. In season 4, we had Philly Vanilli in that episode. In that season, which had obviously a lot of songs and had a lot of different versions of that same song. So that had a lot more songs that season. Added a lot more songs that season. And last season, of course, we had the episode with Magic Inside and all that, and that had a lot of songs in it between Magic Inside and the Spectacle and the Equestria Anthem on that. So So yeah, we got that's one of the reasons why it kind of seems like previous seasons have gotten a lot more songs. It's because each of those additional musical episodes adds about 5 additional songs to that. So we'll see what we get the next couple episodes and see if we have anything there to add on. But for now, no song this episode, but we do have some score here. So let me see if I can get that pulled up here. So obviously, I don't have any notes here, so I'm gonna have to kind of remember which tracks to play. Obviously, a lot of the score in this episode is very a lot of the score utilizes a lot of the Apple Family and Applejack motifs that we've had in this series before. So we hear a lot of those. So that score, as well as of course a lot of banjo, make appearances in the episode here. There's a lot of there's 12 tracks that we got from this episode, but a lot of them are really short. Some really nice short cues throughout all of the wild action that goes on, especially as we get farther and farther into Applejack's lies here. So we'll start off here with the opener of the episode. And right off the bat there, we get one of the more used since season 3 Apple Family themes. That is the minutes rest theme that we first heard. A lot of these tracks that we'll hear here. A lot of these themes were first used in Apple Family Reunion. That kind of has a lot of the Applejack, Apple Family motifs in it that have been used since then. So we'll hear this one appear a couple more times throughout the episode as well. And you'll notice like a lot of the Applejack score, whenever either some Applejack is kind of going a little crazy, or any sort of other thing where there's a sort of unsure or off moment, or here, or in this case here, when she's sort of getting on Apple Bloom and trying to get her to admit to her lie. There's always a lot of woodblock that you'll hear, and a lot of her motifs that are a little more off sounding. So we'll get to the next ones here with this is the backing score for Big Mac and Applejack kind of squabbling at the beginning of the flashback. And we start off there, actually, before we get to the flashback, we get this little kind of memories music here. I believe that song there had been, or that cue there had been used before in one of Granny Smith's flashbacks as well. So we get like this nice little waltz there as we go into the flashback. A little more of that wood block in that cue right there. And the banjo comes in at the end. So now we get to Filthy Rich and Spoiled Milk's introduction in the episode. Filthy Rich and Spoiled Milk both get their own sort of score, their own motifs for the episode. So we'll hear, I believe it starts out At the beginning, we'll hear more Filthy Riches, and then I think Spoiled Milk gets a slightly different one when she begins to talk in the scene. So that was Filthy Riches there. And that'll go right into this next track here, which is a small little thing from when they were in Barnyard Bargains here, and it's just more of Filthy Riches cue. No, excuse me. Yeah. I got my tracks mixed up. There are a couple tracks down here. This was that was for Applejack talking to Big Mac there, and now we have this is the scene for Granny Smith here, sort of telling Applejack why this is a bad idea for giving Filthy Rich their cider early. There's more of that wood block. And now we get to Rich's Barnyard Bargains, which has his theme again here as we go visit their shop. See, now the next track here is a little longer. This is the entire scene where Applejack is trying to push Granny Smith out of the way and continuously lie to Filthy Rich to try and get him away from the farm, and just keeps digging herself deeper. So we start out this track with more of Filthy Rich's motif as he shows up at the farm unannounced, and then the craziness ensues from there.
Sorry to drop by now. We just wanted to come by and wish Granny a speedy recovery. Look, sis, our good friend
And that kind of continues on there. But eventually we get to the hospital here, and now we got the scene in the waiting room with all of the, like we were talking about, all those ponies in the waiting room here. We get this little number. And they're one of the little Applejack's banjo cues there. from there, we get to the scene where Applejack is talking to Big Mac just directly before the operation scene. And she's kind of saying that, no, this isn't about me getting my way anymore. This is about me worrying that we're going to lose the farm and lose our business with Filthy Rich because of my lies. And so I've got to keep this up because I can't back out now. So we get a little bit more of an emotional part here. And again, there's a kind of a more melancholy version of A Minute's Rest motif there at the beginning. And so then we get to the operation scene where the story reaches its climax. Again, more woodblock. Love the banjo right there. The big build up there for the climax right before Applejack admits that she lied. So got the final two tracks here. One for Applejack. The first one here is going to be Applejack actually telling the truth in that scene, and then the next one is when we come out of the flashback and kind of Granny Smith and Applejack are kind of giving the epilogue to that entire story there. These two tracks here are pretty much very similar tracks to, again, the tracks that ended Apple Family Reunion. First one, telling the truth here, is the theme that we heard in the track Ruined, It's All Ruined, directly before the Raise This Barn song. It's right after the barn collapses in that episode. So we'll hear it here, very emotional track. It's really extra emotional here. And that score mixes in a little bit of the Minute's Rest motif as well, which is also one of the scores. If you know what the Minute's Rest motif is, it's the part of the score from Apple Family Reunion where Applejack is putting Apple Bloom to bed, and they're talking about, right before, this is right before the night before the reunion, before when Applejack's worried about everything going right in that. And then we end the episode off here with Being Honest, and this is the track that also ended off Apple Family Reunion, and the track Apple's Departing in that episode there. It's a nice little banjo moral theme. And again, ending off with that minute's rest motif there, and the nice build up to the credits of the episode. So that's all the score from this week's episode. A little bit simpler, a lot of banjo, and a lot of those themes from Apple Family Reunion making another return here for Applejack and the Apple Family. So next couple weeks, we'll probably have a lot more to talk about here, I'm assuming, with next week being both a map episode and a Wonderbolts episode. Usually those definitely have a lot of score going on. And then, of course, the finale is always just going to be like an hour to talk about everything for that going forward. So that's it for the score. Let's see. I gotta run for 1 second. I'll be right back. But if everyone wants to discuss the theme and the moral of the episode real quick.
Did I see it? Basically, lying to your own family will bring you nothing but ruin and regret. And what's worse is that nothing can ever stop a lie from catching up to you. Additionally, nobody starts out perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. But most importantly, don't be a dick!
You dick!
Also, Granny Smith still runs Sweet Apple Acres, and you better remember it.
All right.
That's pretty much all I've got anyway. And yeah, lies do have a way of piling up and snowballing. So it's like, one little white lie may seem to start out all right, but then if you're not careful, then one lie begets another, and you may wind up having a very, very bad problem on your hands.
And snowball it did.
Like Tim said there in the chat, I just kind of couldn't help but voice it out.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, don't lie. That's the moral. Yeah, but yeah, it's more like Tim saying with the lies have the potential to kind of have a snowball effect. So, favorite parts and any concerns for the episode?
Speaking Big Mac is another one of those things that I've always mentioned that we needed, and I got what I wanted. So I'm good on that count.
Yeah, I just really loved how. Well, first off, of course, I loved the backstory to Applejack and actually exploring one of the character's elements and why they embody that. Why Applejack is so honest all the time. Why she strives to be honest. But on top of that, how they also built upon and gave us this backstory for Big Mac. And why he doesn't talk so much. And not just make it some small kind of joke in the episode that shows us. No, making it a very integral part of the plot here. Where not only does what happens in this episode, teach Applejack the importance of telling the truth, it also teaches Big Mac the importance of actually stepping back and listening to other people rather than just blurting anything that comes to your mind out of your mouth and not listening to others. I will say, this isn't really a concern, it's more of a thought. But, I still do find it interesting that we didn't see Apple Bloom in the episode. I mean, I didn't expect to see anything to do with the parents in this episode. I guess, yeah, I if you're disappointed by that, sorry, you're expecting too much. But I was a little surprised to not see Apple Bloom in here at all. I mean, it isn't like she had to not be in here, because the story, because obviously she would have just been very, very young at this point. But it does raise a lot more questions that to answer, just in terms of their family, and where did Apple Bloom come into play here, and where are their parents at this point. So it'd be interesting to see coming next season, maybe if we'll maybe start to deal with that, because it is something, you know, that definitely could be dealt with. I don't necessarily think we need an episode dedicated to Applejack's parents dying. I'm not one of the person who just wants a death episode. I already think Thanks for the Memories last season did a death episode better than you would actually be able to do with an actual death episode. It was just a nice, similarity there. But it would be nice to see if we, maybe in the context of another episode, get more backstory into it. I mean, yeah, they could be on vacation somewhere like that. But it raises the question why, at this point, then, Applejack and Big Mac are so adamant about who gets the farm next. Because obviously, if their parents are still around, even if Granny keels over here and dies, obviously the parents are going to be in charge of running the farm after that, not them. So they would still have a long ways to go before they would be concerned with who runs the farm. So I guess, makes you wonder. It doesn't hurt the episode at all. It's just something that makes you think. So, overall feelings, conclusions, final thoughts?
Always nice to see the Apple family kind of getting together and just, a little bit of a history between all of them. Mm-hmm. Kind of wish we had more family dynamics with other characters.
Does that mean, Tim, we're going to have an Apple Bloom, Your Adopted episode?
Oh boy.
There is another possibility I did not suggest, but I'm going to let you draw your conclusions to that one.
It would have to, in terms of, if we're going that route of Apple Bloom being adopted, she would have to not know. There's no way that she can know, that they can pass off with her knowing she's adopted with everything we've been through in the series so far. Which is a little... It'll be interesting if they try and tackle something like that this far into the, into her life and into the series. Yeah, I don't get what you could dislike about the episode. I mean, it's not, some grandiose big episode, but it is like a really big episode in terms of character continuity and character building, and showing Applejack's character development, which of course I love, and not just because Applejack, but just because character development. And if you're disappointed and hate the episode just because Applejack's parents weren't mentioned, then you need to rethink your expectations going into episodes, I think. Okay, with that, thank you so much for joining us for this special Monday edition of Equine Episode Examination. Next week, We'll be back on our normal day, normal time at Tuesday at 5 p.m. here in CinemaQuestria to discuss this weekend's episode, new episode, a Top Vault, which we'll be watching live here in the Americas at 11:30 a.m. This Saturday, Top Vault, which is you can apply a lot of things. This obviously we know that this is going to be a what's it called, a map episode with Twilight and Rainbow Dash, just given that we've already had 2 map episodes with the other characters this season, so we can apply that. And of course the whole Top Bolt thing implies Rainbow Dash and also implies Wonderbolts being involved, so definitely could be an interesting episode to definitely see how they involve the Wonderbolts after what happened earlier this season with Rainbow Dash and the Wonderbolts, and see how that comes into play. So we'll be watching that this weekend, and we will be back next Tuesday at 5 p.m. then to discuss that. And then we're coming really close to the end of the season. The week after that, we will have the 2-part season finale, and the following Tuesday, right after that, we will be discussing that. Probably have a lot to talk about for that, so we'll probably go a little longer than normal. And of course, the week after that, we'll be having our big season wrap-up. Well, we already discussed the first half of season 6 earlier during the hiatus, and so now we will be going to we'll talk about the second half, and then just kind of also the whole thing as a whole. And then finally, the week after that, we will be getting to talking about the new Equestria Girls movie, Camp Everfree. So I know I've been definitely waiting to talk about that, so we'll be talking about that. I believe it's going to work out the week after. I have to double check. I might have to change that because I do want to do that. So yeah, we got this Top Bolt finale. It should be there. I'll have to double check the Blu-rays released. I want to make. I'm just saying. I want to make sure I have like the score and everything ready to go for that discussion. But it's going to be the second week of November there, so that the Blu-ray should be out by then. So yeah. I'm just kind of reading the chat here. So we'll be talking about that in the coming weeks, and after that, we'll be getting back to some other discussions, and eventually get to the season 4 discussions. Not sure when. I'm not sure if we'll have a few other discussions and then maybe take a break since we're getting towards the end of the year, like we did last year, or if we'll start up season 4. Obviously, we don't have to worry about filling, hopefully, a huge gap in between the movie. That's kind of what I was worrying about. It's like first, are we going to get a season 7, and is it going to be coming after the movie? You know, because we're going to have to fill in a lot of discussion if we're having that long hiatus. But it seems that season 7 is definitely 100% confirmed. It seems by an interview that was on Equestria Daily with one of the app developers at I forget their name, but the app developer that Hasbro bought that they're developing an MOP game for. That they said that they're releasing the game this spring to coincide with Season 7, which would imply that Season 7's premiering in the spring, which would be very much in line with Season 5 and Season 6, and in line with them already doing voice acting for some of the early episodes. So we'll have that, and we might even not make it all the way through Season 4 before we start back up with Season 7 on Triple E. So with that, thank you so much for joining us tonight.